Hey guys, welcome back to the series. I'm Tim Wright. I'm a broker at Cushman & Wakefield. We've given this series a name, Sunbelt Developers, and we're joined today by a legendary Sunbelt developer, David Allman. David, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
Glad to have you. I guess we'll just dive in. I've got a little intro. I'm going to read off, and then we'll get into the conversation. David Allman, you are the visionary founder and chairman of Regent Partners, a leading real estate investment and development firm based here in Atlanta. With over 4 decades in the industry, you spearheaded transformative projects, including the iconic Sovereign Tower in Buckhead, King and Queen buildings, and a massive portfolio exceeding $3 billion in real estate assets. Your impact extends beyond just development. You have significant contributions to civic and nonprofit initiatives. You're the founding chairman of Opportunity International Nicaragua, and you're recognized by Urban Land Institute's 2023 Industry Impact Award. You're a dedicated leader, philanthropist, and native Atlantan, best of all. David, really excited to have you.
Well, glad to be here.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you.
Let's just dive in. Can you tell us your story? We were talking before, I didn't even realize you were a broker here at Cushman for a little bit. But maybe go further back. So you grew up here in Atlanta. Maybe where'd you go to school? Give us the backdrop.
Yeah, native Atlantan. Both my wife and I are native Atlantans. Both our parents and our grandparents were here. And went to Lovett School.
All right.
And then went off to Dartmouth. But I've got 4 kids and 13 grandkids, and they're all here in Atlanta. And the city's been good to us, and never had any wanderlust, and wanted to come back to Atlanta and start my family and do business here and be part of the kind of the civic fabric of the city.
Well, good, man. Okay, so love it. I mean, did you always want to get into real estate? Was that always the...
No, I studied economics in college. I knew I wanted to go into business, but didn't really know what that would look like. I thought hard about it, getting an MBA. Due to circumstances, I didn't end up pursuing that. So it took me a few years to figure out it was real estate. My wife's father was a prominent, successful real estate developer, and ultimately I think his charismatic guy, and I think that probably was the biggest factor in me deciding to select real estate.
Yeah. Okay. So love it. Dartmouth. Did you play any sports?
I played a little bit. I mean, I played a couple years football at Dartmouth, and did a little bit of rugby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got beat up a good bit.
A little bit. Yeah.
Good, man. All right. So what was Cushman the first job?
It was. It was my first real estate job. Started out working with Andy Gertner, leasing office space. I was doing, they didn't have the formal teams the way they do now. So it was an informal team, but I started working, doing a lot of helping him, just doing whatever he wanted me to do. We did a lot of work down in New Orleans with a guy out of New York, John Dowling, who was kind of a legend with C&W back in the day, and I just had a lot of fun doing that, learning the business from one of the best, and then working my little tenant rep deals, knocking on doors, doing the stuff you have to do as a young broker.
Yeah, I know that pretty well. So what year was that?
It's 1980.
Yeah. Okay. And how'd you get in touch with Andy?
Well, when I was talking to people, when I was starting to focus on real estate, getting advice as to where do you start, how do you start, and most of the advice I got was, getting with one of the big service firms and leasing. Learn how to lease, learn how value's created, understanding location. What makes one location or one project better than the other is just a kind of a building block to understand the industry. So.
Yeah, that's good. Well, you landed a pretty good spot. I'm a little biased, but also Andy was kind of the king of tenant rep. Like landing with a pretty good team there right out the gate. That's awesome. Any notable deals from those first 4 years? I know you said down in New Orleans a good bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly the big deals. It was, I was just, doing the work for those guys on that. But no, I didn't have any really big deal. I remember New York Times was coming to town, and I was a tenant rep for them, and we went to Monarch Plaza, which was then the new, high A, best in class product. And for me, that was I think it was a 5,000 square foot deal, but to me, that was like, for me personally, that was a good size deal.
That was good. Yeah. What were rates back then?
Well, they were leading the market. I'm going to say, golly, what was it? It was well into the 20s.
Okay.
Which
was probably pretty high then.
It was kind of setting the mark.
Wow. I think that building is like right at 40 right now. Interesting. New York Times.
Yeah.
It's good. It's a good deal. I think they ended up doing a big piece on Andy. Did you ever see that article they did of, it was like the legends of their industry? And
I've seen some articles on Andy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good. Okay, so you're working at Cushman. You're here for 4 years, doing some deals, and then I guess you're like, I need to get into more of the investment side. And where did you go from there?
Allman Development, a Texas development. Back in the 80s, the influence of Crow and Hines and all the offshoots, Lincoln.
Yeah.
It seemed like particularly from an office perspective, every developer had some kind of tie back to Texas. That's where the big lenders were, real estate lenders. Mm-hmm. A lot of them didn't survive the subsequent overbuilding, but and this was one of those companies that came out of Texas, and I knew from high school the guy that was running the office here in Atlanta, and he approached me about coming to work with him, and I was kind of had that itch to learn the owner-landlord side of the business.
Yeah.
And so was a little restless, and made that step after 4 years here.
Yeah. Okay. And that was here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
They had an office. Okay. And I guess you were going straight into asset management kind of role, or?
No, it was like landlord leasing, but involved in the development side as well. I mean, just understand the pro formas and helping to put from the market side, but it was in charge of getting buildings leased.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. Okay, and then what was that company called?
Allman Development.
Allman?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right? Okay.
Allman, and it was. I think it was 2 years later, as the market crested and got overbuilt. I got fired, got let off. And,
what year was it? Like 80s?
This would have been 86.
Okay.
86, I'm thinking, and then a year later they were bankrupt. I mean, this was the classic overbuilding. This was not exogenous factors. This was real estate doing it to itself. Egregious overbuilding, oversupply. And so by the mid and then into the late 80s, obviously there was the big pullback. Mm-hmm. And so those late 80s into the early 90s was really kind of a 5-6 year period where particularly the office market was just in kind of a downward spiral. And so I spent a year on my own just trying to figure out what next. Mm-hmm. Didn't want to jump back into brokerage. Started to think about, but it was a very difficult time in terms of development had ended.
Yeah.
So maybe there would be some buying opportunities or whatever, but I didn't have capital to do that. So it was a little bit of kind of wandering in the wilderness for a year. I brokered an office sale out in the Overlook area, and made enough money to kind of keep me going. Mm-hmm. But then
were you married, kids, or
yeah.
So at that time you're like, we got bills.
Yeah, 4 kids.
Okay. Wow.
4 kids and no job, or just self-employed, and it was kind of a, don't know what's around the corner, and ended up actually started Regent Partners in '88, the age of 33, 34, with some friends, primarily from church. That we had, a couple of guys were from Carter, another guy had worked with Terwilliger,
Yeah.
We formed Regent Partners in '88, and just to do, brokerage at its core. Most of them were focused on brokerage, but I was interested in transaction work, but hopefully to get some point into the development and or investment side.
Yeah, that's it's Hunter's listened in on a couple of these now. Jim Irwin started when he was 33, 34. David Sanji, the last one, was 33 or 34. There's like a magic number. I guess you're like, I know what I'm doing at this point.
No,
it's like it's now or never.
It's not. You know what you're doing. You're just saying it was. I got an itch to do something different.
Yeah.
And either intentionally or if you get laid off.
Yeah. By
it's circumstances, and so little. And then obviously what takes place. There are a lot of twists and turns and in all our journeys.
Yeah. So tell me about the group you assembled. So you got a guy from Carter and some others. You just kind of talking with them probably over the course of a year, like, hey, I think let's do something. Like, what were their skill sets or background? I mean, they were maybe more construction guys or...
A couple industrial guys, a couple office guys.
Okay.
And so everybody kind of knew each other a little bit, or some of us knew each other well. And I don't know. Then they were young. I was the old guy. Or no, David Dick was older, but the other guys were younger. So everybody was, we were young. Why not?
Yeah. No risk. Why not? Let's check it out. So tell me, what was your all's first project? And it was called Regent Partners at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, the story there was, we were kind of had a nice little, is working. We were, paying our bills and hiring some young brokers and kind of doing okay. And then we got approached by Staubach, who was trying to open up in Atlanta. And the first round, we basically said no, we're okay where we are. And then I'm going to say a year later, maybe they had set up their office here, but they were trying to grow it, and they came back to us a second time, and this is when the guys that were more brokerage oriented said, this is when the regional and national platforms were really gaining momentum. I think we may have lost out on a pretty good sized brokerage deal, and I think the sense was, big, stronger platform is the way to go. So they wanted to leave. I had made the decision early on that I was not going back into brokerage. So I stayed and kept Regent Partners, and the other partners left, and we still had some younger guys that were working with us. And so they left, I did that, and of course that was a lot of the production walking out the door. And so it was like I didn't have any idea what the future would look like, whether we could make it or not. And then...
What year was that?
That would have been 1990.
Okay. Wow.
We'd been together 2 years.
Yeah.
And then I got a call one day from kind of a headhunter and said there was this operating group in Atlanta that wasn't satisfied with what was going on. Would I be interested in coming and run this company? And basically what we ended up doing was selling. I sold Regent Partners, but kept the name of the company. The former company was Mark III, and it had German money behind it, which was appealing to me. And so to me, it was appealing because, one, my alternatives weren't great, but two, it was access to capital at a time where capital was very scarce. And so that really started about a 10-year phase of Regent Partners where I did not own it. I just ran it. And but it was a very formative. We probably did 50, 60 projects, so very prolific time. Yeah. We did all major food groups, so it was very educational in terms of me. Office, industrial, hotel, some retail, some we were developing, some we were joint venturing, but we had access to capital, and that was the big difference. I mean, the young people today don't realize how limited capital there was back in the late 80s, early 90s in that real estate recession. And so that was when our first big deal was the acquisition of Tower Place.
Wow. Okay. And that was out of like a bankruptcy situation. What was the landscape there? Like you look at it at a map now, and I call it the super block. You have Lenox and Peachtree, Piedmont. It's this huge site. You have 5 or 10 towers now, all in that square. Like, what was it? It was Tower Place by itself, and was it all the retail around it, or I don't know, what was the?
Yeah, it was low rise. A few stories, very suburban type density, with the one iconic 30-story Tower Place building, and when we bought it. Which was, Chemical Bank had owned it for 20 years. They were the original lender for Charlie Ackerman. It went bankrupt in the mid-'70s. And I know it went bankrupt at least once more, when the tax, law changes in the 80s. I know it went bankrupt then. I don't know if there was a third owner in there, but Chemical was still the owner. And they were offering terms because there were, most people couldn't get debt, and we could do an all-cash deal. So we bought Tower Place, and it had, ancillary buildings. It had extra land, and then of course had the tower for $35 million cash.
Wow. What does that come out to per foot?
Well, the tower itself was 600 and something, so that's, and then you had a lot of land. I have to go back and do the math, but
today's numbers, that sounds like a great deal.
Well, it was. I think it was the. I considered it the bottom of the market, right? If you looked at the sale of IBM Tower, that Prentice had developed here in Midtown, that was maybe 87 or 86 or something when that sold at a premium, a new high water mark for Atlanta. I think the Tower Place transaction was marked the bottom. And then, if you recall, that was really when Atlanta led the nation in job creation in the 90s. So the timing just, in retrospect, turned out to be very fortuitous because, we just started creating, jobs like crazy. That's when the whole 400 corridor just, you saw, 100 4 or 5 story buildings pop up in a decade, up that corridor. But we had capital, we had a low basis. So, we leased up rapidly. But it was also for me, I went to school on, how do you urbanize something that was really built as a suburban type project. So it was a great opportunity for me to, we hired Smallwood Rentals, and how do we turn this into a more urban development? And so they had 4-lane road down, and it's like, no, let's shrink this down, sidewalks, walkability, streetscapes, reconceiving about what buildings, mid-rise, high-rise could go where. And and again, it was a project that we had involvement with for probably 20 years to some degree, and multiple development opportunities, hotel, office, multifamily, condo, enhanced, amenity retail. And so it was, it gave me the opportunity to kind of professionally really, understand, learn about mixed-use development, which I've enjoyed. I like the complexity of mixed use, and it was kind of my go-to-school project to figure out how that works.
Cool. How long did y'all have Tower Place? Like, when did you exit?
Well, we sold our last interest in Tower Place 100. I don't know how many years ago that was. It was Reef. We had sold a portion. We sold it initially to Jamestown, then when Reef came in, and we held that for a long time. But until the, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago, maybe.
Oh, yeah, you had it for a while then. Okay, got it. It sounds like a good project. I kind of have your rap sheet here. Let's maybe go through it. When did y'all do Tower Place 200? What kicked that one off?
Well, I can't remember what year it was, but it was, Tower Place 100 was full, and we know there was demand for office. I mean, one of the things we did that really helped us is when we bought it. We bought a tract from Charlie Ackerman on the backside that ultimately gave us enough land there. That's where we built the Buckhead Grand and then the Buckhead Church. But when the retail center came in back there, we were able to work an agreement because of this land that we now had to extend that road, a private road, back to the loop. Right? So that gave us not only the access off of Peachtree and Piedmont, but now gave us direct access onto the loop. Of course, 400 was in, right? That came in the mid-90s.
Yeah.
So that additional access, and we were able to control the access at peak hours, so that we had proprietary.
There's that gate there. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
okay.
That's our gate.
Okay, what are the rules behind that? Because isn't it like 4 o'clock it closes or something?
Morning rush hour, evening rush hour, the gates come down.
Yeah.
Because it was meant, one, we didn't think the road capacity could handle all the cut through. I mean, Atlanta Financial Center across the street, so it was one, just road capacity. The other was just proprietary benefit to accretive value to us. We've got great access from all the major arteries, and so being able to get that last piece of land where we could actually do that and control it as a private road had a lot to do with just the additional level of attractiveness of the site for any use, really.
Yeah.
And so, office was going well, so why not do office? Yeah.
Why not? Okay. Who was did y'all have like a major tenant move in to kind of kick it off, or was it spec?
It was spec.
Okay.
Jamestown, I think Jamestown was our partner on that.
Okay. Got it. Georgia State has most of that.
They do, but we had a good mix of tenants. We had probably 4 or 5 1 to 2 floor tenants. No single dominant tenant, but several, good solid. I mean, insurance, law.
Yeah. The classic.
Yeah, your service.
Yeah.
Your service companies. Yeah.
Got it. Well, good. Okay, so we've got Concourse. That's at least on the timeline here. I've got. I think that's jumping ahead. So y'all bought that in 2012? Okay. And you still have some ownership? I know there's BLT.
We still manage it and co-lease it.
Okay.
But no ownership.
Got it. And BLT is the owner now.
That's correct.
When did they buy? And they bought it from y'all, I'm assuming?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
I think it was 14, or I think it was probably late 14, early 15. I mean,
okay.
That was a real interesting deal. We had, coming out of the Great Recession, we were struggling as a company just because there was not much to do. And, we were trying to acquire because obviously the values were down. And, we had chased a building at Ravinia that we thought we might get. We were the high bidder, and then the big service company that was leasing and managing ended up coming in and putting something together, and very disappointing. And I remember going home when we lost that acquisition, and we knew Concourse was on the horizon, and we were in the mix of that, but it seemed big. It seemed like it would probably be a stretch for the group we were putting together to buy. It was a $300 million plus acquisition, and our partner, which was Jim Realty out of Chicago, I think their fund, they were, opportunity fund.
Yeah.
I think the size of their fund was $300 million. And so I think they probably had I'm going to say a $30 million, 10% cap for one deal. So we were having to syndicate the equity side. So I think we ended up financing that with about 200-ish debt, 100-ish equity, kind of a 1 to 2. And so we ended up, we didn't think we'd get selected. In the selection process, if you identify your capital, and we were scrambling. But I don't remember why, but the REITs were not active at that point in time, and so there was a window there for some reason that, we ended up Fairlawn, who had earlier helped me buy back the company back in 2002.
Yeah. We need to get to that.
Like we did a lot of deals with Fairline, very entrepreneurial young guy there, Rocky Freed, that we did a lot of deals with. But he came in, he's the one that actually, I think, had introduced us to Jim Realty. And then we got Zell came in, and so we had three equity partners that we had $100 million of equity, and but the bidding was thin. And but we benefited from a couple of things there. We didn't expect to get it. It was a huge win for us at a time we were really, not doing well as a firm, and after the post recession. And but one, Tia Kreff owned it. They had foreclosed on it, and they're a kind of a cash flow oriented owner. In other words, rather than spending a lot on CapEx, they rather lower the rent and put less money into a deal. They also, there was a lot of deferred, lobbies were getting tired, that sort of thing. So the whole CapEx side of it, both on the, public spaces, but also from a tenant. And because of that, the rates in that sub-market, even though it was a market leader from a quality point of view, you had some new product that was competitive rate-wise, but just in terms of the iconic towers and the health club and the water and just the hotel, it was probably best in class, even if it wasn't the newest. But so we think that the owner, they kind of repressed rates in the whole submarket. It was a big enough complex that we felt like there was a lot of rate upside as part of our, the way we looked at it. And then, but I think between the time we put it under contract and the time we actually closed, or very close thereabouts, is when State Farm announced its big location there. Yeah. And then the perimeter center market just was like, boom. It was hot. It was hot. And so we had, a good basis. Great time. Timing worked out really well. And so we really got a kind of a double bump. One from just the market momentum coming out of the recession as things were picking up, but also from really we felt like artificially suppressed rates in the submarket by that owner. It was a big enough project to do that.
And did y'all buy the entire complex?
We did.
Okay, because I know some of the buildings.
Well, all the office. I mean, with the hotel and the fitness were separately owned.
But I think like 1, 2, 3, like those are different owners now than the 5 and 6, the King and Queen.
Yeah, when BLT came in, and we continued to manage and lease, and we actually had a small incentive piece with BLT when we sold to them. Down the road, there was a decision made by BLT to sell off the mid-rise stuff. So we did that and kept the towers. Yeah,
kept the trophies. Yeah. Those are, wow. That's great. Newell Brands just signed a big lease there, and they're doing pretty well. I think they're trying to get rates up to 40 in those buildings, which is pretty high.
Activity's good. It's it's a great, iconic, best in class, good location, good amenities. Of course, the iconic.
That's great.
The iconic towers for that whole submarket.
Yeah, we have a little research piece that went out. Maybe you know this, but in the perimeter market, there's so many of these little office buildings that and nobody really wants to be in them. Maybe they have 1 or 2 tenants, but it's almost like the land value is more than having the tower on it. So the number I heard was anywhere between 20 to 26 buildings are going to be torn down in the next few years. And that's about 4 million square feet of office product getting taken offline in perimeter, which is all the more to compress and will help some of the lead.
Yeah, you just got to get to a point where the ownership or, can, the value's down far enough for that to take place. I mean, I guess it was MC Row where that.
Those are the two. I think most people have seen. You drive up 400, and I think there's like 700 apartments going in there. Yeah. But it's an interesting dynamic. I mean, I could see King and Queen getting up to 50 a foot just with the demand that's in that total area. Yeah. So cool. All right. So that's Concourse. Tell me about Sovereign. This is just such an iconic piece of the Buckhead Skyline.
And that was started in 2006, And we had acquired after the original acquisition, Tower Place. When the old Blue Cross Blue Shield was sold. I can't even remember the name of the group that developed Capital City. What was in Capital City Plaza that Cousins now owns at 3350.
Yeah.
But that whole project was bankrupt, and so we ended up buying the front piece, and that really gave us a nice development site that ultimately became the site for 3344 Sovereign. And when we bought the assets back, maybe back up for a second. The company that had bought Regent Partners in '91, German ownership, after the wall came down in '89, they really started to expand into a lot of different types of real estate in Germany, and we're doing some international acquisitions. Bottom line is, by the late '90s, they were having financial problems. And so that led in the early 2000s for them to say, we need to start monetizing some assets. And so real estate holdings in the US were on the market. So I had the opportunity to bid on the assets that were in our Regent Partners portfolio to buy them from this parent company. And that's when we connected with Fairlawn Capital out of San Francisco. And we bought our own portfolio of assets back. And that's when I purchased Regent Partners back, and then had this venture that was launched with a kind of a bucket load of diverse assets. And so that in Tower Place was part of that asset pool, the remaining assets in Tower Place, which included that land. So we had this great site fronting on Peachtree. It had great access. I mean, transit, Peachtree frontage, connectivity. So we wanted to do something special with that site. So that's what we got with Smallwood, who had done all of our architecture work at Tower Place, and we said, let's think a little outside the box. And so we wanted something big, and so the way to do that was vertical mixed use, because how big an office can you go? That pushed us, and we looked at different, do we do a hotel? We ultimately settled on a office condo blend, but we gave Smallwood a good bit of latitude to do something iconic, and so I remember the meeting where they came in and started presenting us with some of their design ideas, and this curved glass, was really, I think we all got very excited that, okay, this is cool. We hadn't seen that in Atlanta. It's like, how expensive is that? What are the issues? We obviously went through some refinements to clean that up, but we got real excited about it, and the capital markets were good. Atlanta was good, Buckhead was good, and so.
So it was right, like 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
iStar, remember them? I don't know if you remember them.
No.
They didn't. It was a Starwood, finance group. They were one of the 2 or 3 big non-recourse lenders at that time, and so we got good financing, and off we went.
Wow. What were the other ideas that they brought to you? Were they all some sort of curved glass kind of look? Or
yeah, they came in, and a lot of it was, from the condo. I mean, the office footprint was pretty clean. We knew we needed about a 25,000 square foot box, and he's like, don't get too crazy with the corners, or the efficiency, the leasing,
that's
efficiency. So, but on the condos, and then how do you create a basic rectangle but still have architectural flair? So they were still, how they did that was fun. But the condos needed a lot of scrutiny in terms of size of units and depths, and residential units in terms of light, and how those laid out, particularly with a curved glass exterior. So there was a lot of refinement once we got the original concept, but we went with the core approach. I mean, there were a few different designs, and they cleaned it up. It got sleeker, but it wasn't a major deviation from what they originally came in with.
When did that topped out?
Delivered in 2008.
Okay.
Remember that year?
Yeah, I do.
Are you old enough to remember that year?
I remember my parents talking about it a lot. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a big topic of conversation, the GFC. So how did the office leasing do?
We were doing great on the office leasing. It was best in class. We were, I think, market leader. We were, Terminus had built, and then you had some other buildings come behind us. But I think when the market in 07 and the noise and I guess 08 when it really hit, we were about 60% leased. Okay. And I would, the way I would look at it, if we'd had another 6 months, we'd have been 80, 90% leased. And we had the momentum. Yeah. And then, everything just stopped in 08. Yeah. And we delivered the office in, I think, spring of 08. And I think leasing was just quiet for a year. Mm-hmm. We ended up, leasing up well. We did fine. The office ended up doing okay. I mean, it could have done great. It was a great asset. Yeah. Yeah. If we just had, like, say, another short window, we'd have done great. But the condos, they didn't deliver until the fall, and we had several under contract. Most of those closed, but that went dead for a year or two. Mm-hmm. So, and of course the finances of the condo, the carry cost of empty condo with HOA fees and all that. Wow. That so I mean, we ended up getting, I would say, pricing consistent with our pro forma, but the time took its toll on that. I think the net was a single digit return, which was okay for the time. It was good for the times, but it could have been great. And it kind of underscores the importance of time. You take Concourse, where we timed it right and did extremely well financially, and then we had this great iconic building. Still very, very proud of it, but it could have performed so much better with just another year. And as part of the risk of development, when you have projects that take a year or two to design and or zone and it's like 2+ years to build, a couple of years to lease up. I mean, 5-7 years, you don't really know what the economy is going to look like that you're delivering into.
Yeah. So y'all were able to hold on to Sovereign. Yeah.
In fact, we actually bought back the debt from iStar. They were they got in financial trouble, and we actually bought their $100 million loan for $80 million.
Wow. And then how long did you hold it? Because I know Cousins is involved. Did they buy it from y'all?
We actually sold it to, I think it's Parkway, the REIT that Cousins actually acquired later on.
Got it.
So they bought it indirectly.
Okay, got it. And what year was that, like 2012, 13, or more recent than that? That's okay.
Sure.
Yeah,
I'm not
that's
sure.
all right. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's an iconic building. I personally thank you for making an awesome tower. Can we switch over to Savannah?
Sure.
I know y'all have I would say recently, but fairly recently, gotten involved with Eastern Wharf, which has been in the works for a very long time. I think I saw an article that was like almost 200 city council meetings and it had gone through a couple of different developers, and y'all have, as far as timing, maybe hit that at the right time.
Yeah, that was post-recession foreclosure.
Yeah.
The investor got it back from Ambling, I think it was, and they were trying to figure out what to do, and so we got a call from a group called Mariner, Trent Germano, Ian, that had put it under contract after foreclosure, working with this group that thought they might want to stay in. Ultimately, they decided they just wanted to exit. Mm-hmm. And Mariner felt like they wanted somebody, I think, to help with the financial muscle, but also bring some complementary development skills, being a 50-acre mixed use project. And so we got a call one day, and we said, yeah, let's go take a look. And so we created a venture with Mariner, and ended up the owner decided to exit. And so I'm not sure how many years ago that was, but it was several years ago. And so since that time, we've been developing it. We've got our second apartment complex underway. Thompson Hotel that does well. We built that. Yeah. We brought in and sold some of the land to Patrick Malloy for the for sale product, and I invested with Patrick on that. And they're probably 100 plus, townhome units there. Obviously, support retail at the base of everything. We've got plans for at least a couple more hotels. We've got plans for more multifamily. We'll probably do some for sale product, maybe some senior product. So there's still several, probably 7 or 8 development sites left, but been good, fun projects, done well.
What was the total acreage on that site?
45 to 50 acres.
Okay, it's big site.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier. Savannah. So we did an interview with David Sanji. He's doing that convention center expansion.
Yeah, I was on the committee that was the selection committee for that.
There you go. Well, cool. I guess you probably know David.
I do.
I think they're supposed to be closing like in the next 2 weeks on, I don't understand, the bond market. They've gone out to the bond market.
Yeah.
And now they have their financing.
Yeah. I was on the Georgia World Congress Center Authority Board for 16 years, and the Signia Hotel, the new almost 1,000-room hotel adjacent to Mercedes-Benz that we were looking at. When I was on the board, we were looking at how we wanted a new convention center hotel to be contiguous, connected to the Congress Center. The whole, gravity of downtown and the convention business in particular had shifted that way. So we were looking at ways to do it, and initially we were saying we want to privatize the hotel. We went out to the market. The market did not respond well. It was just, a hard deal to finance, and the cost of capital was great. So we then, we went around and looked at different cities around the U.S. that had done public ownership, public financing of convention center hotels.
Yeah.
And so we said, look, that's probably the better way to go. We got authorized, I think, with the Georgia state legislature for bonding up to, we're part of a state agency, to get approval up to X $100 million for this convention hotel. So we decided to do a public financing of that hotel, which is what ended up being the case. Well, when Savannah, and actually, and there's been kind of a good relationship between World Congress Center and the Savannah Convention.
Well, yeah, I think Kevin told me there was some out-of-town group that came to them and said, "Do you want to buy this?" Or so I think it was a couple years ago, but maybe there's more of the story.
Well,
there.
you had, there was the first iteration. There was a company that built the Westin down there, the existing hotel, and they were interested in doing the second hotel, but then when the market downturn, and that's really where the opportunity for Sanji to come in. But it was also the lessons learned from this down here with the Signia Hotel was, why not do the same financial approach with that? And so that's kind of a little bit of the history of how that ended up focusing on a bond, a public-owned bond financing for that hotel.
Yeah, and I mean, he's told me, probably similar to your comment, if you go to the private market, there's not many people that are willing to partner up with you on a hotel like that. So it makes sense. Signia, I've heard maybe the first 12 months was a little slow, but they're doing extremely well.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the location's great. I mean, it was I think a well-conceived project. I think it will do very well. It'll serve the whole tourism industry. It'll serve the Congress Center. It'll serve the state well. I think for years to come.
The stadium and all that.
Yep.
It's a good spot. Okay, so Eastern Wharf. what else? 3354. I wanted to ask you about this. So y'all have a site in Buckhead. It's kind of a pad site right now. It's just a parking lot. Y'all had plans maybe a couple years ago, and it's kind of gone dormant now. Like, are there, I guess, maybe when things turn, or I mean, it's still a possibility?
Yeah, through a series of events. I mean, Cousins, we have a small ownership piece. Cousins is the major owner, so they'll be the prime driver of the financial and picking when and how and all that. But we've worked with them. I mean, we had a 2-building design for the site. One was office, one was residential. So we've got that, and that still can happen. A lot of it depends upon the office market, kind of where that is. I mean, a few years ago, you say, when are we going to have demand for another office? But the high-end stuff, well-located stuff, certainly with sponsorship like Cousins has, there could easily be an office building there. But it's also, again, today's not good for high-rise residential in terms of just the risk-reward, but eventually, and that's a great residential site. And of course, there are the plans that, to cap 400 there, that if that were to occur, then that site just becomes all the much better.
The beachfront kind of property.
Yeah.
Are you involved at all with Hub? I think it's Hub 404. So
a little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Work with Jim Durrett a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. And where is that project at? Is it?
Well, there's some engineering dollars there to the next stage. I mean, and they're trying to determine. I think the CID that Jim runs is trying to determine from what do they want to engineer for. Mm-hmm. So they're right in, I think, the throes of looking at that now.
Got it. All right. Do we talk about Buckhead Church?
Yeah.
So I've heard that the church was designed to be an office building if the church maybe didn't work out. And I'd love to hear kind of the backstory there, how they maybe approached you or how that came about.
Yeah, and actually my wife and I are members of Buckhead Church. So we were, when Andy Stanley and North Point were looking to start their satellite
in town.
Yeah, in town, and they, since have had multiple sites around Metro Atlanta.
Yeah.
Buckhead was the second site that they wanted to do, and they had actually started out in the DoubleTree at Tower Place initially, and then renovated a grocery store up Roswell Road, kind of South Sandy Springs, for a period. But knowing that was an interim, and then they decided that for the Buckhead location, I think they were scouting sites, and I think critical to them was obviously given how much land they need or parking they need. This was probably something that needed to be, they focused on, can we find a site where we can lease parking instead of building 1,000 parking spaces? And so we were obviously one of the potential sites for that. We had a site, and we obviously, with Tower Place 100, had this 1,500 space or whatever it is, parking deck. And so they approached me. I knew all the players there, and I said, okay, we'll take a look at it. Our partner Fairlawn was the first clearing house to would they be interested in this. Nice thing about the Buckhead Church is it's primarily a Sunday only operation. They don't do a lot of midweek like a lot of churches do. So the conflict with office use was minimal, so that was important. So we got the okay from Fairlawn, and Fairlawn was a great partner, and they just gave us a lot of discretion. And then we had to go to the lender, which is a little more big institutional lender, and didn't know how they would respond. But there was a revenue stream. We convinced them that it was not competitive with the current use. It was complementary, and so they agreed to it. So we came together.
Yeah,
it was happy to be able to do that.
Yeah, good. Do you have a favorite project from? You still have projects that are probably in the pipeline, but
I have to go back to Tower Place. I mean, it was our first. It kind of got us going, got us on the map. I was able to go to school on mixed use and real time, and I'll bring all the major food groups into it. The platform to do Sovereign, which to me, in my own backyard, I grew up in Sandy Springs, Buckhead, to do kind of an iconic tower in my hometown. That was, that was meaningful. And then it kind of, it got me involved in the civic side of things. I mean, I was part of the founding chairman for the Buckhead CID, was in that position for 20 years. It kind of really gave me an enhanced platform for civic engagement, which I've really enjoyed over the years, not just in Buckhead, but so it just had a longevity. We've done more development there than any single place. So yeah, I mean, it's for a lot of reasons. It's the one that I would think of.
Cool. All right. Talking about civic involvement, this opportunity, International in Nicaragua. Tell us about that.
Yeah, one of the things that I got involved with, even Regent Partners did early on, was there's a gentleman, Bob Lupton, still alive, retired, who was kind of the thought and eventually practice leader of how do you revitalize kind of these underserved or blighted urban communities. And
his book, Toxic Charity.
Toxic Charity, yeah.
It's incredible.
And our project is referenced in that. Yeah. But I got to know Bob as a very young adult. And when we formed Regent Partners, we wanted to give back to the community, and we were looking at different ways to do that. Got with Bob, we decided we would help Bob. They were FCS, his organization was getting cranked up in Summerhill. And so we actually helped with some of the land acquisition, when they were trying to acquire real estate in that community. And but at any rate, it started a long relationship with Bob. I was kind of just through being involved with Bob on his board, just learned almost through osmosis the principles involved in how do you revitalize, underserved areas. And so when my wife and I were introduced to Opportunity International, I just had in a time of reflection one day, just had this idea. I wonder what it would look like to deploy the principles I've been exposed to through Lupton in urban Atlanta with the microcredit clients of Opportunity International. They were doing a lot of micro lending around the globe in developing countries. And we like their model of doing small loans to help these primarily women feed, clothe, house their kids. And so it was this idea of I wonder what these principles would look like working with the clients. And so got with Bob, brainstormed the idea, and we called up Opportunity International, said, we got an idea about maybe a pilot project with you. Can we come see you? They're in Chicago. So we went up there and just kind of said, we've got an idea. What do you think? And they said, it could be. It's interesting. They were trying to figure out where we might do this. They were doing a lot in Africa at the time, but they had a micro finance organization down in Nicaragua. And my wife and I said we prefer Nicaragua because we want to be involved and just ease of travel versus heading all the way to Africa. So that's how we ended up there. And it was just a kind of a green field. We just some principles, didn't know, there was no business plan initially. So it just started with a little kernel, a little idea, and then bit by bit it kind of grew to now here 20 years later. We work with 1,000 farmers and probably 50 communities, and built a boutique hotel. We've got 2 schools, entrepreneurial schools, and we big processing plants. So we now we got to the point where we process a crop called cassava or yucca, a gluten-free product, which the smallholder farmer has historically grown. And we figured out how to process this into a very high-grade flour, and we now sell it to U.S. food companies as ingredients in these gluten-free snacks or whatever. So it's a good high-margin crop, and then we now have, we make enough money off our ag operations to support our nonprofit work there. And we have a payroll in country of probably 250 people now. So it's kind of grown into a very substantial operation, and we're looking to hopefully expand into Columbia in the next couple of years. But it's been a fun, I mean, just like real estate, it's dark moments of truth, and but God's been good to us. He's shown up when we had dark days, and but it's been
that's incredible.
Yeah,
sounds like you built a little city.
You would enjoy it. You would enjoy seeing it.
We should go.
Yeah,
let's go check it out.
Yeah.
How often do y'all go down there?
I get down there 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay.
Yeah, and we bring groups down to see it.
Okay.
We've had several groups from downtown Rotary go, and we've got some of the private schools in Atlanta now are taking kids down for trips.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing well.
I guess switching back to here in Atlanta, do you have any? We've got a handful of big projects. We've got Centennial Yards, the South Downtown guys we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
We've got Medley up with Mark Toro up in Johns Creek. High Street that's delivered recently. Do you have any? I don't know. Is there a favorite one of those that you're kind of excited to see how it plays out?
Well, I think just my interest in urban Atlanta and urban stuff. I mean, the downtown stuff, and certainly long history with World Congress Center and being part of that. I think the Centennial Yards and South Downtown, and in what the Congress Center is talking about doing with Popeland and Fuqua, I think, all that's really interesting. Obviously, CIM to be able to do most of that without debt, I mean, that's extraordinary. I mean, that is wonderful for the city. Mm-hmm. Obviously, from the tourism perspective, the entertainment venues they're bringing, the restaurants, but they're also going to be bringing a lot of residential, which is obviously to move it beyond kind of tourism and entertainment, but to solidify it as a livable, walkable area. That's critically important. Obviously, what David Cummings and his partner are doing. 50 plus buildings. I mean, the good thing about that, the scale, the architectural style is authentic, it's human scale. It complements so well what Centennial Yards is doing. Their cost of capital is different than what we as real estate developers typically deal with. So I mean, he's doing the incubator, hoping to make money off the tech side. So the fact that he's an entrepreneur, he loves real estate. He loves. I think they totally love what they're doing, but it's enormously challenging. I mean, the historic tax credit deals, but I think the two of those together are just so critically significant for the core of the city, and and it's so important that the core of the city do well. So I think those are the you got World Cup coming. I know getting some of that cleaned up, the homelessness. Big concern, but the fact that you couldn't almost have two better project sponsors than those two doing what they're doing. I mean, we as a developer and realizing how hard it is to make projects pencil today, particularly to see what they're able to do in this environment is an incredible gift to the city of Atlanta.
It is. Yeah, I call it the Christmas miracle, the South Downtown thing. Yeah. I mean, that came together on like December 23rd, a couple years ago.
Of course, Matt Toro, he's incredible what he's able to do, and create these mixed-use environments, and no one's better at what he does than he. So kudos to him for
being able to pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Avalon, but Connie Square now, Johns Creek. And,
they just got a big office lease signed there.
Yeah, and what they're working with City of Roswell now out there. So.
Oh, really? Okay, that's exciting. Last couple questions. Where do you see opportunity right now? If there's, somebody looking to either get in, or maybe there's a developer out there that's poking around, like where do you?
Well, development in general is difficult, right? I mean, high interest rates, high cost of construction, this inflation stuff, bad Fed policy, bad fiscal policy. I mean, we're paying for it now, and our industry's probably as hit hard as any. But so development is tough. So you got to find your niche into development. and some, garden style apartments are out there, but the debt markets have come back. Equity's still very tepid, but development, it's hard. Multi's going to always come back because you've got good financing. Office is going to be strong. So I would just say you either find niche products, in the residential space in general, but acquisition now, right? All asset classes have had a revaluation. Office, obviously the most. So we bought back into North Creek. We like that. We'll look at other office opportunities. It's hard to find the equity. A lot of the institutional players are on the sideline because they're too loaded up on office. Yeah. Even if they strategically agree that now is a good time to buy the right type of office at the right value, they can't do it because they're encumbered. And so finding the right partners is important, but we still like office as a value add. Certain type of residential replacement, you can buy below replacement cost, good stuff. That there's still some we think there's some play there. Class B stuff, particularly if you know how to manage well, right? Stuff that was, leveraged. You've got some late cycle. So if you talk about one of our friends that's buying Class B stuff, stuff that was over leveraged, late cycle, floating debt, just getting clobbered. And then, if you don't manage well, you've got security issues, insurance cost issues. There's a reset in how these pro formas work today versus what we thought a few years ago. So I think this is a buying opportunity. This is first and foremost, look at what you can buy.
Yeah. What we're seeing right now is, all these hot nodes at Colony Square, kind of Buckhead Village, Terminus, Galleria. They're getting full, and now tenants have no choice but to look elsewhere. And so it'll
come back.
It'll trickle out.
It won't come back like it was, but it'll come back.
Yeah, that's it. Well, good. Here's one that's a little different. We have a very strong following of kids that are getting out of school, and always curious, what's your career advice for somebody that's coming out? I'm tired. There's a group at Georgia State. I've got a lot of guys that come out.
Real estate guys.
UGA. Yeah, they call like, hey, I'd love to pick your brain on stuff. For those, what's your career advice to them?
Well, if they're starting out, I'd say get with one of the big service firms. Can't beat the CNWs, CBs, JLLs. You get exposure to the transaction volume. You get to see the different different types of activities that go on. So I'd say try and get one of those jobs as a analyst or get a junior guy on a team. Just whatever you can get with those guys. Obviously get with the best people you can get with. Get with the highest, best professional you can get.
The Andy Gertners.
Yeah.
Go find them.
Get with the right people. You learn from the best. If I were talking to somebody's been in the business for several years and they want to be in the development or investment side, I would say my big advice looking back would be how you align yourself with good capital partners. You got to be able to win. You got to be able to get deals done, and competitive capital is the key to that. So even now we're always looking for that capital partner that we have, that we can be positioned for success when we go to develop or acquire something. So that's a never-ending. We talk about it all the time. So if I had to go back and say what would I do that would, accelerate, our trajectory, I would say capital, baby capital.
And how does that? Are we talking like, I don't know, the Ohio Teachers Fund, or like people that have like pension funds, like very deep pockets? I know when we were talking with Sanji, it was all about. I think he's worked with Harvard on a number of deals, and that was a big thing for him.
Sometimes you can just get a relationship and you can run with that relationship because it is a relationship business, and you get a good relationship, you run with it. I mean, we did a lot of deals with Fairline. We did several deals with Jim, but you know, their funds change, their personnel change. You know, they have a life cycle. It seems like, so you're always, and they'll only do certain things, and you want to do other things. So having the right capital partners, but there's no sheet music to it. You just got to get out there and what are you looking at, and who's in the market, and obviously who's got competitive capital. So is it offshoring? So it's just a never-ending vigil of trying to tap into, you know, good competitive capital for what you want to do.
Got it. Cool. All right, last one. What are your hobbies? You've helped with Opportunity International, obviously. Are you a golfer? Or you shoot guns? Or
don't either. I really have to say that if I have a hobby, it would probably be just kind of nonprofit work.
Yeah.
The thing I enjoy doing, particularly at this stage of life, is kind of the give back, and you know, involved in Atlanta in the affordable housing space, and helping to raise funds to subsidize and catalyze supply of affordable housing. You know, love it. You know, trustee at love it. Helped with the master planning there, chaired building and grounds. Just had a lot of fun. Got like Leonard Wood and Jim Meyer, you know, other real estate guys that are part of our building and grounds that, you know, working together on a master plan that we got real excited about, and that just so doing things like that. I mean, finding places where I feel like I can make a difference. And, you know, got an initiative at Dartmouth that, you know, is 15 years old, that we're a residential community, a faith-based, you know, platform that's, is, you know, we bought property and renovated it, residential community. But I'm in a good stage of life where, to me, it's about, you know, how do I give back? How do I make a difference where I can make a difference? This community's been great to me and our family, so I want to be part of its fabric and continue to explore ways where I can make a difference here.
Yeah, good, man. Well, David, we appreciate your contribution to Atlanta and all the things y'all are up to.
Thanks
for
you.
the time.
Thank you.